You don't ride these country roads alone or in the dead of night. That chilling rule is literally your only guide for survival in Cross Rivers, North Carolina. Welcome to this explainer, where we're doing a full review and taking a deep analytical dive into a town that demands a totally different kind of hero, and a thriller that has critics completely split down the middle. So we're looking at the Country Road Murders, hype versus reality. Let's find out if this high-speed crime novel actually delivers the goods, or if it just kind of spins its wheels. All right, before we get into the gritty plot details, let's lay out the fast facts for our review. We've got a 416-page novel brought to us by two absolute heavy hitters: James Patterson, the undisputed master of the thriller, and Mike Lupica, a legendary sports journalist. It's this really potent blend of mystery, thriller, and sports fiction that promises some serious, relentless momentum. Okay, let's set the scene. Welcome to Cross Rivers. The book kicks off with this brutal, absolute gut punch of a prologue. We meet Silas Tucker Sr. He's this large man, a former football hero, and a super beloved high school principal. He's just driving home on State Road 31, listening to Levon Helm, when he spots a turned-over motorcycle. Obviously, he gets out to help, and boom, it's a complete setup. He gets shot point blank in the face by a young man making his very first kill. I mean, it is a stunning, violent opening that perfectly establishes just how dark this backwoods setting really is. From there, the story anchors itself on the heartbreaking trajectory of our main character, Silas Tucker Jr., who goes by the nickname 10-9. 10 years after his dad's murder, Silas becomes this all-American college quarterback. He actually takes his team to a national championship and becomes a first-round draft pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He literally has it all. But then, that very night, he's a passenger in a car driven by his teammate Gideon Garland. The ensuing crash kills Gideon and is so bad that medics actually have to bring Silas back to life twice. He survives, but he's never going to throw a football again. Fast forward to the present day, and this former superstar is just working as a farmhand back in his hometown. It's honestly like a brilliant mini documentary style rise and fall. And unfortunately for Silas, his hometown has changed a lot. Cross Rivers has actually been voted the third most violent small town in America. The reason? The Southern Mafia. This ruthless local syndicate is run by the Crockett family. They control the drug trade, they're linked to a whole string of missing young women and human trafficking, and you guessed it, they very well might be tied to the murder of Silas's father. So this is the overwhelming evil that our fallen hero is forced to confront. Which brings us to a major point in our review. Does the book actually give us a heroic lead worth rooting for? Well, the highest praise universally goes directly to Silas himself. Reviewer Judy Holst from TBD Teacher points out that while Silas is physically imposing and super driven to take down his opponents, his real true strength is actually his heart. We get to see his soft, caring side through his relationships with his grandmother, EJ, who raised him since he was 14, and his fiercely loyal childhood best friend, Taylor. Reviewers just absolutely love cheering for this determined underdog. And this is really where the collaboration shines. The review platform Read Otta points out, and I quote, "The sports backstory gives this one a heartbeat. Lupica knows locker rooms, and it shows." You can tell James Patterson totally leaned into Mike Lupica's deep sports knowledge here. The football elements, they don't just feel like set dressing, They feel incredibly authentic, realistic, and deeply emotionally resonant. When we break down reviewer Judy Holst's report card, the main character and writing both earn glowing marks. That keeps those signature short chapters flying by. But take a look at the drop-off when it comes to mystery and suspense. Judy makes a great point that there actually isn't much of a mystery to solve here. The characters completely outshine the actual investigation. And that brings us to the critical reservations. Is it really all pace and no depth? Read Otta describes this as the highly efficient Patterson-Lupica machine, just cranking out short chapters and even shorter sentences to keep those pages turning. They argue that the whole small-town return premise is kind of assembled from parts you've definitely seen before, and that characterization ultimately gets sacrificed to pure velocity. It reads incredibly fast, mostly because, well, there's just very little to slow down for. This creates such a fascinating critical divide. On one hand, Ray Palin from Book Reporter enthusiastically calls this the best Patterson/Lupica collaboration yet, and one of the most satisfying James Patterson novels he's read in a long time. But on the other hand, Read-A-Dot warns it's an assembly line thriller, where characters pretty much just exist to push you to the next cliffhanger every 3 pages. It's this really stark contrast between a reader looking for a gripping, mindless ride and a reader looking for something to actually savor. And that lack of complex depth totally extends to the plot twists, too. Reviewer Kristen from Kristen's Book Corner had an advanced copy and noted that while the book started with a bang and rarely hit the brakes, she found herself looking for that signature thriller twist that simply never arrived. Now, she admits it wasn't enough to completely ruin her experience, but if you're jumping in expecting the mind-bending misdirections of a typical psychological thriller, the critics agree you might be left a bit wanting. So, the ultimate question for our review today: is this character-driven, sports-infused thriller actually worth your time and money? Let's aggregate the final verdict. Redata's AI reading intelligence gives it a 3.6 out of 5. I think this perfectly reflects that mixed critical consensus we've been talking about. It rewards the deep sports backstory and the novel's undeniable heartbeat, but it penalizes the relentless momentum-at-all-costs pacing and the lack of a deep, savory mystery. However, when you look at human reviewers like Kristen's Book Corner and TBD Teacher, they both confidently handed it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. For them, the sheer entertainment value, the strong family figures, the loyal friends, and just the pure joy of rooting for Silas against the Southern Mafia easily overshadowed any predictable plot points. Which leaves us with one final provocative question to wrap up this review. Are you willing to brave the rapid pace of Cross Rivers? If you're looking for a deep, intricate puzzle box of a mystery, honestly, this might not be your speed. But if you want a high-octane story of vigilante justice, genuine heart, and an underdog hero you absolutely can't help but cheer for, Patterson and Lupica have a ticket waiting for you. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.